Good morning, everyone. So I finally dug out my book, The Fionavar Tapestry. I have gone ahead and I have found the passage that I absolutely love. I did this one as a monologue when I was in grade 12. It's going to be a little bit longer than the other stuff I've read. It's about a page in the book here. All right, so the character involved is named Paul, and I'm not really going to tell you a whole lot other than that. You're just going to have to enjoy what I read. If you've read the book, amazing. It's a great book. If you haven't, I honestly highly recommend it. It's been one of my favorites forever. So it's The Fionavar Tapestry by Guy Gavriel Kay. Here we go. Love. Love. The deepest discontinuity. Or not quite the deepest. Because this, precisely, was when the Mazda in front blew tire. The road was wet. It skidded sideways and hit the Ford in the next lane, then rebounded and 360'd as the Ford caromed off the guardrail. There was no time to brake. He was going to plow them both. Except there was a foot. 12 inches clearance if he went by on the left. He knew there'd been a foot. He'd seen the movie in slow motion in his head so many times. 12 inches. Not impossible. Very bad in the rain. But he went for it. Sliced the whirling Mazda, banged the rail, spun and rolled across the road and into the sliding Ford. He was belted. She wasn't. That was all there was to it, except for the truth. The truth was that there had indeed been 12 inches, perhaps 10, as likely 14. Enough. Enough if he had gone for it as soon as he saw the hole. But he hadn't, had he? By the time he'd moved, there was 3 inches clear. 4. Not enough at night. In rain at 40 miles an hour? Not nearly. Question. How did one measure time there? At the end? Answer. By how much room there was. Over and over he'd watched the film in his mind. Over and over he'd seen them roll off the rail into the Ford. Over. Because he hadn't moved fast enough. And why? Do pay attention, Mr. Schaefer. Why hadn't he moved fast enough? Well, class, modern techniques now allow us to examine the thought pattern of the driver in that scintilla, lovely word that, of time between the seeing and the moving, between the desire and the spasm, as Mr. Eliot so happily put it once. And where, on close examination, was that desire? Not that we can be sure, class. This is most hazardous terrain. It was raining, after all. But careful scrutiny of the data does seem to elicit a curious lacuna in the driver's responses. He moved. Oh yes, indeed, he moved. And in fairness, do let's be fair, faster than most drivers would have done. But was it, and there's the rub, was it as fast as he could move? Is it possible, just a hypothesis now, but is it possible that he delayed that scintilla of time, only that, no more, but still, because he wasn't entirely sure he wanted to move. The desire and the spasm. Mr. Schaefer, your thoughts. Was there perhaps a slight, shall we say, lag in the desire? Dead on. St. Michael's emergency ward. The deepest discontinuity. It should have been me, he'd said to Kevin. You had to pay the price, one way or another. You certainly weren't allowed to weep. Too much hypocrisy, that would be. Part of the price, then. No tears, no release. What had crying to do with it, he had asked her. Or no, he had thought that. Niobe, he had said. A Niobe number, witty, defenses up so fast. Seatbelt buckled. So cold, though. He'd been so very cold. Crying, it seemed to have a lot to do with it after all. But there was more. One played the tape over and over like the inner film, like the rolling car, over and over the tape of her recital. And one listened, always, in the second movement for the lie. His, she had said. That part because she loved him, so it had to be a lie. One should be able to hear that, despite Walter Langside and everyone else. Surely one could hear the lie. Not so. Her love for him in that sound, that perfect sound, incandescent. And this was beyond him, how it could be done. And so each time there came a point where he couldn't listen anymore and not cry. And he wasn't permitted to cry. So she had left him, and he had killed her, and you weren't allowed to weep when you had done that. You pay the price. So he had come to Fionavar, to the summer tree. Class dismissed. it's time